Today, we are going to look at a case study that will examine a direct recognition policy. We'll look at a policy that will actually receive a higher dividend when loans are outstanding. When it comes to direct recognition, have you ever heard that when you take a loan, you do not receive dividends, or you receive a lower dividend? That is a partially true statement, or can be a 100% true statement, depending on what company we are speaking about. When it comes to the company selection and the topic of direct recognition, you will find that different companies treat policy loans differently. What we're going to look at specifically is a policy with Guardian, and we're going to look at a policy, an older one that was started between 2016 and 2022, specifically that has a fixed loan interest rate of 6%. If you're considering a new policy, this will still be valuable information, as some products and some companies still treat loans similar to this. Mass Mutual is a good example with their fixed loan rate option. So what we've got here in example A is a direct recognition policy. The dividend interest rate is 5.75%, and the loan interest rate is fixed at 6%. So what we'll look at is funding the policy and first seeing what the policy looks like if I just park money and let it sit and grow. We're going to look at a growth illustration. What we'll look at specifically is, of course, the cash value and death benefit buildup, but the dividend column. What do the dividends look like over time? And then once we look at that, we'll look at the exact same policy, but with loans outstanding. We'll look at one large loan, but when we take that loan, if this is me, what I'm interested in is how does that loan impact my dividends? Are they higher or are they lower? And what do things look like when I repay the loan? Is the cash value restored, like what I would see with a non-direct recognition policy? Or is it higher, lower? Let's have some fun. So, beginning with a growth illustration. And again, this is an older product, which you very well may have. It's a Guardian policy with a guaranteed rate of 4%. But what we've got here, pretty straightforward. We've got the funding at $100,000 per year for 10 years. That gets a total of $1 million into the policy. So what we've got here, this column, net after-tax outlay. There's our funding. This is a 1090 design, a little bit more aggressive actually. All that means is we've got a minimum premium here. There's your first year cash value, $88,000 and change. And there's your break-even point, meaning by year 3, I've paid in $300,000. I've got $294 and change. By year 4, my total payments are $400,000, and I have more than $400,000. By year 10, I've paid in $1 million. My cash value is $1.165 million, and there's my total death benefit at $4.1 million. Slightly drops in year 11. What we did was stop the funding, so we pay nothing else into the policy beginning year 11. We can continue to fund, but for the purpose of simplifying this example, we're going to look at a loan coming out in year 11 and then repaying it when I'm no longer making premium payments. It just makes things a bit easier to follow. So here we've got no premium payments. We do cut the term rider here, which is why we see that slight drop in death benefit, but it quickly recovers. So here's what I want to look at, or here's what I want to highlight. This column, end of year dividend. Year 11 is $12,634. Keep in mind the year 10 cash value as well, 1.165. Have those figures in mind? All right, cool. Let's look at the next illustration. And here's what we've got. The exact same illustration, but with a large loan coming out in year 11. When I say large loan, we've got a $1 million loan coming out. So here's the cash value. Does this look similar to the last example? Let's break even year 4. There's your year 10 cash value. Policy loan. $1 million. After-tax loan interest. So here's the loan interest. In this example, we are assuming we're paying it every year. So why we see this wacky after-tax outlay here of negative $943,000 is because the illustration is assuming we take a $1 million loan. That's money that comes from the insurance company, from our policy to us. And then we're assuming we pay $56,000 and change out of pocket, which gives us a net of $943. Why it's negative $943, it's assuming money coming from the insurance company to us or out of the policy. That's why we've got that negative there. It's money out, not money going in. Where's the dividend column? And do you remember what the dividend was on the last example? It's $12,000 and change. In fact, let's go back to the example without any loans. Year 11, 12, 634. Back to the loan illustration. You won't see the dividend column when running loans in many cases unless you select an additional report. And the reason why is because when we run loans, there's a lot of columns on a life insurance illustration. So here we go. Here's the same thing. There's our funding. There's that loan coming out. But remember, we paid loan interest that way as well. Very difficult to follow here, but here's the main thing. End of year dividend, year 11, $14,990. The year prior with no loan, $12,226. Let's go back to the growth illustration. Year 10, $12,226, exactly the same. Year 11 though, it's less. So let's do this. Here we've got the two illustrations side by side. Does this make life a bit easier? It does for me. So what we've got is as follows. On the left, the growth illustration. On the right, the illustration we just looked at, but with loans or one large loan and then repaying it. In light blue, what do you got? The annual dividend column. Okay. So for the first 10 years, all we do is feed the policy. And we can take loans anytime. But here's what I want to highlight. Here's your dividends. Year 10, 12,226. Over here, through year 10, it's the exact same policy because you haven't taken any loans. Year 11, we take that $1 million loan. What is the impact that that loan has on the policy? Well, with respect to the dividends, the topic of this video, look at that. It jumps almost to $15,000. Whereas the other example is what? $12,634. So, why the jump? Here's why. The example to the left, where we don't touch it, we are receiving the dividend interest rate of 5.75%. Remember, that is a gross dividend rate. That's not, I'm not getting 5.75% net on my cash value. Dividends don't work like that, unfortunately. But with this example, any money that's still in cash value, think of it as remaining equity. That 5.75% dividend is applied. The outstanding loan balance, however, you still receive a dividend. But in this example, 6%. That's Guardian's treatment. So there's not a huge spread here, but it's noticeable enough, especially when we look at a $1 million loan. You've got 25 basis point increase on the outstanding loan portion. So a way to simplify here is here we take that loan, then we begin repaying it. We're paying the loan interest each year. Why that's less than 6%, by the way, is Guardian, they bill loan interest in advance. And if you're paying it annually, meaning you do not allow the loan interest to compound, you say, no, I'm going to pay it when I receive a bill for it, they actually apply a discounted rate of 5.66%, which is nice. And depending on the rate, the discount's often lower. You'll see that in the next two case studies too. But that's why it's not a clean 6%, but we are assuming we're paying the loan interest out of pocket each year and then applying $100,000 annually toward the loan principal. So we're paying it down aggressively, and we can pay loans down however we'd like. They're often optional to pay back altogether if we don't want to. But what do you notice while the loan is outstanding? If we look at the dividend column every year, and you'll see this on the illustrations as well. These are the illustrations just exported to Excel. It's higher while a loan is outstanding. When that loan's paid off, there's not much of a difference there, is there? It's still slightly higher, but it's not a drastic difference. What else do you notice? Let's highlight this. Here's your cash value. Here's your death benefit. Here's the example where you never touched it. What's the difference? The direct recognition example is slightly higher. The reason why had to do with that 25 basis point increase on the loan portion. So again, it's a minimal increase, but it does result in me seeing more cash value and death benefit for that matter once a loan is repaid. So, purpose of this example. This was example A. What's the purpose? To demonstrate direct recognition, and we see that the company is still paying me dividends on my entire policy value. But the loaned portion receives a different dividend rate, which, with this older policy, is higher than the standard dividend interest rate. So I hope that this helped from a clarity standpoint. If you are very technical, you may have this question, which a lot of times people will bring this up, and I like to bring this up too because it's important. It's your money we're talking about. Look at year 10 to 11. How much do you pay in year 11? Nothing. What's the dividend here? If we just look at the growth example, the dividend is $12,634. Is that what your cash value grew by? No. Your cash value grew by $47,000 and change. If we go back to the illustration, you won't see that $47,000 figure anywhere. So why the difference here? What that value represents is the total cash value growth. We've got another video that goes over how to track the cash value growth on a whole life insurance policy or how to measure the growth. But very, very quickly, the dividend column excludes the guaranteed rate. So when I have a dividend rate of 5.75%, and this is an older product with a guaranteed rate of 4%, the surplus, because it excludes the guaranteed rate, reflects a surplus only of 1.75%. So when we work with individuals and help them track the cash value growth of their policy, what we're looking at is the total growth year over year. I know that's what I'm interested in when I'm looking at my policy and trying to track my cash value, like what's the net? That's what I am most interested in, not a gross figure or a partial figure. It's good information when I piece it all together, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times if we're speaking with a business owner or someone who just wants the bottom line, provide the net, and it is something that we have to calculate regardless of the company selection. But anyway, that is some additional information for this wonderful topic of whole life insurance and cash value maximization, or policy loans and direct recognition. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let us know. Please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and as always, I hope this helps. Thanks so much. Hey guys, Steve Parisi here. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for future videos. If you'd like more information or to see some custom policies for yourself, feel free to call or email our offices at the contact information below.